Our next speaker is Alex Capano. She joins us today from LaFlore. You'll see LaFlore is also at the back of the room. Again, I'm not going to read Alex's bio, but she is their Chief Scientific Officer. She is also very experienced in women's health, in oncology. She has done a number of papers. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Dr. Alex Capano.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm here to talk about the skin microbiome and what we've done at Dakota Biotech and through our brand LaFlore to be really innovative in this space. So can I get a show of hands? Who's familiar with the skin microbiome? Okay. And who feels like they really actually understand it and how to manipulate it to get better outcomes for your clients and your business? Okay. Is anyone actually doing anything with the skin microbiome in their practice? Okay, well, I hope to change that by the end of today. To give you a little bit more background on me, I have backgrounds in chemistry and neuroscience. I'm actually a family practitioner, but I left the clinic full-time about 9 years ago to go into biotech. The reason being, I wanted to be a little bit more creative and entrepreneurial, and I felt like I had the sort of personality or mind to look at natural ingredients is really only what I focused on. And how do we use those to solve problems, right? But it's really a nice balance because I have all of that clinical experience in family practice, where I was primarily looking at adolescent and medicine and gynecology, so I was doing a lot of acne, a lot of skin, and certainly a lot of GYN, which is less relevant today, but hey. So Dakota Biotech, we have been around since 2017, and I'm working on this, so hopefully next time you see me, I'll have a lot more patent numbers up here. But our biggest innovation is that we're able to use live probiotics that are encapsulated, that do not need to be refrigerated in skincare. Now you may see certain labels out there that talk about probiotics. It's not really regulated yet. They're not live probiotics. These are often lysates, they can be irritating, or they're prebiotics, or they're postbiotics. I actually just read this study where the scientists, the researchers, they looked at 60 products out there on the market that were skincare products, claiming to have probiotics in them, and none of them did. Now the difference is because of our tech, we're actually able to have these live probiotics in your skincare. So what does that mean? Why do we care? All right, purpose of your skin. I don't need to preach to the choir, but this is our largest organ. We talk about the gut microbiome, we talk about that all the time. What about our skin? Because it also has a microbiome. And what's fascinating is there's this skin-gut axis, so they actually talk to each other. So we can use the skin to improve not only our skin health, but our whole systemic, whole body health, right? And we can do this because we have new tools, new technology. So think about the Human Genomics Project, the Human Genome Project. God, I was an undergrad, I think. They weren't even done it yet. And that was 20 years ago. And then we have things like 23andMe or Ancestry.com. Anybody done those? Show of hands? Okay. So I did that. I didn't find out a whole lot of interesting things. A friend of mine did that and found out she had about 23 half-siblings. Her biological father was a donor, and she had colon cancer, really young onset colon cancer. And she was able to actually bring this unknown biological family together where they understood their predisposition to colon cancer and are able to get screened earlier. It's covered by insurance now for them. They're able to catch things earlier. They actually really took care of her during COVID when she was going through treatment. There's also some more scandalous stories, but there's also some interesting things that we can pull out, like what medications are going to be the best for you based on those different DNA splices and maps that you have with the Human Genome Project. Well, we did the same for the microbiome, both gut and skin. And we can't manipulate our DNA, right? We can't take away our predisposition to certain things, but we can use that information for better treatment. What's so cool about the microbiome is we actually can change it. We know how to change it, and that's where our tech comes in as a real differentiator. So you are not stuck with the microbiome you have right now. We can change it not only in the gut, but certainly in the skin. So, what is it? Now, I think we're familiar enough with microbiome to understand it's this colony of different bacteria, right? That just occur naturally on our skin. And I'm going to try out this new metaphor, see if it resonates. So think about our skin microbiome. It's like, who's colonizing it? There's good guys. We want them colonizing it. There's bad guys. We don't want them around a lot. And then there's sort of mercenaries, right? So there's these certain strains that can be good for certain people, bad for others, or it depends who's dominating. The mercenaries you can hire to do the job you want. And if you're full of all the bad guys, they're gonna hire the mercenaries to do bad things. But if you're full of the good guys, the mercenaries are gonna be hired to do the right things. Does that make sense? Okay, all right. So if we have prebiotics, do you guys know what prebiotics are? Yeah? All right, so they're gonna feed what's already on your skin. So if you just have a bunch of bad dudes, or gals, whatever, on your skin and you're feeding them, you're just feeding them. And if you don't have enough of the good folks around, yeah, okay, fine, they're not starving, but they don't have the power to overcome the bad guys because you're not changing anything meaningful with the numbers, right? So prebiotics are good, but it depends on who you're, the baseline of what you're feeding. And we can actually test that and tell our clients who they have on their skin. Do we have good guys? Do we have bad guys? Where our mercenaries stand? How do we fix that? So then you've got these probiotics, those are the live bacteria. That's where we have the tech where we can actually introduce this army of good guys, right? And then we can feed them with the prebiotics. And we want the army of good guys because they need to take over the bad guys. That's resource competition, but we need to give them a fighting shot because if there's not enough of them, they can't outcompete the bad guys. Again, I'm working on this metaphor, but I think it might work. Then you have postbiotics. So postbiotics are when these probiotics die, they leave these different materials that are often really good for the skin, depending on if you're a good guy or a bad guy. And that's where we see the benefit. But when we just introduce postbiotics alone without the actual live molecules, they can be really irritating. So it's like, 6 in one, half a dozen in the other, right? You're not really getting all the benefit that you can. So that's our skin microbiome in a nutshell, because I think it's a hard concept to understand. We also talk about diversity. So we want diversity in our microbiome. That's true, but we want the right kind of diversity, the right ratios. How do we understand what their diversity or lack of diversity is, our clients or our patients, and then how do we increase that diversity in the right way? How do we make sure we're not just adding the bad guys and then, adding mercenaries where we don't need to? So this skin microbiome, I just sort of explained what it is, how we manipulate it, but what's the point? And the point is, our microbiome is incredibly important to skin health and to systemic health. It's going to affect transepidermal water loss, hydration, redness, eczema, psoriasis, your skin barrier function, redness, fine lines and wrinkles. I mean, really everything, our skin microbiome is a critical component of how our skin behaves and our skin health. And then again, we have this gut skin access, so benefits overall. So when our skin microbiome is, I actually don't like to say the word balance, we're gonna hear that a lot, but is in harmony, it's in sync, right? It's flourishing, it's a great society where you have more good than bad, right? Everybody's happy, your skin is happy. That's gonna be smooth, supple, hydrated, no acne, no rosacea, no eczema, even keratosis pilaris is gonna be affected by this. And so most of us are in dysbiosis. And dysbiosis means we don't have that ratio of one to another that is ideal for our skin. And dysbiosis causes all of those issues that I think you all solve day in, day out, right? And we're in more dysbiosis now than we ever have been. And part of that is, there's some hypotheses, and I think they're pretty strong hypotheses. The environment, right? I mean, it's changed. Our food supply has changed. We're also applying chemicals and lasers and stripping our skin so it's completely just eliminated our microbiome. And look, I like a laser facial, okay? But how do I get the benefits of that without a consequence where then my microbiome is depleted, it's in dysbiosis, and then maybe I get some more breakouts of redness after the procedure. So I just want to put that in your head because that's a really great way to think about this. We already talked about this. What happens when it's imbalanced? Again, I'm going to say dysbiosis. Change the way we live, we know that. So we want to put this in balance. How do we even know how to put it in balance? Well, we can test it, just like you can test your DNA and find 23 siblings across the US. And, form some relationships, but also help them know what they may be predisposed to. So we have actual test strips. Just goes on your forehead, take it off like a piece of tape, but it's, a little gentler than that. Send it off. We work with a lab that is the only lab in the world that can evaluate that particular individual's skin microbiome at a subspecies level, give a report that not only has all the data in it, because sometimes even for me it's a headache, it's the takeaways, the conclusion. What does this mean, number one? And number two, more importantly, how do we improve it, right? What is the protocol? What does this person need to actually get the results you're trying to achieve? And then, I think this is cool, you can do a follow-up after you do your treatments and recommend your products and show that client the change, the difference. They might see it in their skin, but they're also going to see the subjective data difference. So I'm going to show you some of our clinical data to date. We can focus on acne right now. So we just looked at, okay, we want to kill certain acne species, but we don't want to kill everything because some of the stuff that is in our microbiome, some of those microbes are really good for preventing acne. So we don't want to wipe everything out. It's kind of like, well, it's not kind of like, it's exactly like you take an antibiotic for something, and then your vaginal microbiome gets messed up and it causes a yeast infection, right? I think many of us are familiar with that just because it's really common. So we can do the same thing to our skin. We can kill the bad guys, but we're wiping everything out and we're causing a secondary issue. But here, the good bacteria was not wiped out, it was actually replenished and nourished through the product. But the acne bacteria, after using the cleanser, that's the blue line, went down, 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 down. Whereas the typical cleanser kind of leaves space because it wipes out all the good guys and the bad guys aren't getting fought off anymore, right? So you're actually increasing the bad bacteria you don't want. Now this one is 14 days of our topical live probiotics. Again, with acne, we're going to see these clinical outcomes. Just 14 days, we saw a 50% reduction in acne symptoms and a 25% reduction in inflammation. And you can see the before and after pictures there. In my opinion, and you all would know better, that's a pretty fast turnaround, right? It's a pretty fast turnaround. So this is post-chemical peel, which I think is really relevant for this group. Because like I said, I'm not going to tell you, let's not do chemical peels or lasers or exfoliation. I like them. You like them. It's good for business. But how do we make our clients happier with it? How do we do it in a way where they're getting the benefits and no secondary side effects? We look at sort of harm reduction, right? How do we improve that? So this is chemical peel, no probiotics in one group, probiotics, live probiotics on the skin in the other, and looked at it immediately after the procedure, and then 1, 3, and 14 days after. And what we see in the blue line, that's no treatment. So the skin was just completely wiped away of everything, including the stuff you want to keep on there in the blue line. But when you introduce these beneficial live probiotics on the skin, you see it actually increases over time. So you want that skin microbiome, right? It's there to protect you, it's there to do, things that improve the health of your skin. So after these treatments, introducing live probiotics helps to restore what was there and what you stripped, and improve side effects, and ultimately makes your clients happier. They're like, oh yeah, I got that. I went back to work, and I could show my face at the soccer game with some sunscreen and maybe a hat on that weekend. And they're happier with the results, and they're telling their friends, and they're coming back for more because it wasn't this huge recovery, right? It wasn't a shock to the skin. Something else about the skin microbiome. I talked to you about good guys, bad guys, mercenaries. It's strain specific. So yes, we want this increased diversity, but again, we want it in the right way. So staph epidermidis is mostly a good guy, but kind of a mercenary, right? And that's what our report tells you. What balance do you have? And where do we want to increase, decrease, and how do we do that? And also, which weapon do we deploy? I'm a pacifist, I'm from Philly, I'm a Quaker. So, just to let you all know, I just felt like this worked. So what weapon do I deploy, right? If I have an overgrowth of this one, do I need a sword? Do I need a fire? What do I need to actually compete and outcompete that pathogenic strain? So that's another thing we can tell you. So in this particular test, we wanted to increase the staph epidermidis because it outcompetes Staph aureus and it outcompetes some other pathogenic bacteria in many people's skin. Now for some folks, we don't want to increase staph epidermidis. And again, that's what we can help show you with this objective scientific testing. So after just a couple of weeks, we see serum mean, that means they're using the live probiotic serum. The staph epidermidis was 47 versus 11.9 with control. So we really are changing the colonization of the skin. Now, don't call the FDA because it can't make that claim on the bottle, but that's what's happening. And I'm working on some IP where we can actually do that. And then again, strain-specific improvements, you're going to see it here. The blue, that's the serum. We wanted the increase in staph epidermidis, we did it versus control. Now, C. acnes elongatum. This is, you hear C. acnes, you go, oh, but that's why our tests are so great, because we look at the subspecies level. And elongatum we actually want. That is going to regulate sebum production. So you're not going to have that over production of sebum, but you're not going to dry out the skin. And it suppresses its cousins, the other C. acnes and P. acnes that we don't want. It's a really potent antioxidant, inhibits inflammation. Once again, you see serum, 56.2. That's pretty high, that's nice, that's the change we got. And then the mean for the control without using probiotics, just 8.6. And again, this is just the same data showed in a different way because we all learn differently. And this is only 2 weeks. Another one is C. granulosum, okay? So this is going to regulate sebum as well. Really good for barrier function. And again, outcompetes those pathogenic bacteria. But which ones are we looking at? What weapon do we need? These were all acne-prone folks. So we wanted to increase C. granulosum, and we're able to do that again with these live probiotics. I'm gonna have questions at the end, but does anyone have questions on that? So it's, you know, it can be a little dense. Okay. Dermatitis. Now that's gonna be something where we want a little bit of a different combination on the skin. There's gonna be some overlap, it's like a Venn diagram, but treating acne, treating dermatitis are gonna be a little bit different, and then treating someone who's prone to both, that's gonna be different. But again, we customize everything by looking at this at the DNA level. So 14 days live probiotics with dermatitis folks, 100% saw a reduction in dermatitis symptoms, and a quarter saw an increase in hydration. So you're getting the treatment and you're actually improving some of what we typically see as side effects to a lot of these treatments. Right here, you're gonna see some aging and redness. Day 15, it's improved a little bit. Day 30 to 30, the blue is where you're gonna see all those signs. It's really decreased by 30 days. UV spot reduction. I think this case is really cool. And hopefully it all shows up for you as you can see the screen. But look at that, all those dark spots, all those UV spots on this person. We're not, I would ideally like to prevent, but we can treat. So look at after 30 days, the difference in his dark spots. And that's not with anything else. Just using live probiotics in a protocol that was customized. Once again, we're gonna see, hey, so are these really out competing one another, right? Are we actually getting the fight that we want and the victors that we want? And here we see this again. So if we don't want, so Staph aureus, we don't want. Staph epidermidis is usually good, but again, that's a little complicated. That's all in the report. But Staph aureus, it is in the orange. This is just a measure of Staph aureus. And we see that when we actually treat with live probiotics, we have these good guys come in, outcompete the Staph aureus, and then we actually have a decrease in this pathogenic bacteria. Interestingly, we've also evaluated for different fungi, and we found really, really high kill rates against these pathogenic fungi, which is potentially less relevant to you folks. I don't know, how much do you guys think about yeast and fungi on the skin? I got some not. Okay, so maybe I'm wrong. Again, you all teach me a lot. We come from different places. But I think I'm really excited about this because we're going to see things like, diaper dermatitis, different issues on the skin that really promote the growth of different yeasts and fungi that are pathogenic. We can use probiotics to actually eat them up. Now, I don't know, how much time do I have? I'm not sure. I'm gonna check my notes real quick. All right, so we've talked about prebiotics, live probiotics, postbiotics, and then prebiotics are gonna feed, right? Postbiotics, they typically give you the good stuff. Probiotic extracts are not live probiotics. They give you some of that good stuff that you want from these postbiotics. These, once it dies, it sort of gives away. It's like a will, right? You've got inheritance from the probiotic. But when you just have the extract, it's not really perfect. You sort of inherited a house, but the taxes are more than the house is worth. It's another one. I just came up with that. Live probiotics, though, you're going to get that benefit. They are going to die, and they will give you all of these good things for your skin, but if you're not actually introducing live probiotics, who are you feeding, what are you doing, what's the benefit, right? Our products, just to let you know, at LaFlore, we're gonna make sure that not only do we introduce live probiotics, but that is microbiome friendly throughout. It's clean. It is free of any of these chemicals that can be really irritating. It's natural, not synthetic. And we do have this biotech that is unique to the industry at this point. And yeah, I'm gonna go here and then go back. I've been thinking about it like vitamin C. So Who uses vitamin C or recommends it? Yes! Okay. So, vitamin C was discovered ages ago. And in the 80s and 90s, plenty of papers came out saying, oh, well, vitamin C obviously has great benefits for the skin. Now there's a ton of papers right now that say live probiotics obviously have great benefit for the skin. But why wasn't it really in products until after that? And it's because it's tricky to work with. It's not very stable, right? We knew there was a benefit, but how do you actually get it into a product and then it doesn't degrade over time? So that was what was happening initially. And then finally, so there was all this compelling evidence. We knew it was good, but it was really difficult to incorporate. And then there were new forms that emerged. That's what's happening with live probiotics right now, and we're the ones who are at least first to the table of how do we manage these otherwise unstable ingredients that need to be refrigerated, that if they're not encapsulated or they're gonna overgrow to the point we don't want them to, we figured out, just like vitamin C, how to successfully incorporate them into cosmetic and dermatological products, just like what happened with vitamin C. And I anticipate we're gonna see a huge growth trajectory there, just like we saw with vitamin C. So this, the anticipated growth is almost 25% for probiotic skincare right now. The market growth for vitamin C at this point is 6%. So, look, I still like vitamin C as much as you do. However, let's get in on the forefront of that, right? Let's combine all of these good beneficial products. And I want you to understand, hey, if this is around and you finish this genome project, why aren't we seeing this in more products yet? It's because it's unstable. So it's a fairly similar historical timeline. Again, you're all business owners, entrepreneurial, and so I'm going to talk a little bit about the business case here. It's a really big business, this not only natural skincare, but probiotic skincare is going to increase, this is actually a pretty low figure, it depends which source you look at, but $500 million projected annually just in the US in the next few years. So it's the time that you want to be a first mover on this and offer that, because I think this is really going to be ubiquitous in the not so distant future. We do have certifications if anybody is interested on these products. It's safe for sensitive skin, it's PETA approved. Do not want to get on PETA's backside, believe me. Plant-based, gluten-free, paraben-free, all of that, and of course you can speak to us at the booth about that. And so something about, again, thinking why we're in more dysbiosis than we've ever been. It's the environment, it's our food, it's what we're doing to our skin. And there's been a 55% increase in sensitive skin in the last couple of decades, and almost all of us are dealing with some of these issues. 60 to 70%, so that's the majority of your clientele. And this is a solution. Again, give them a test. You can have it as part of a package maybe. We're gonna do this test, we're gonna send this out, we're gonna find out what dysbiosis you're in. I'm gonna get a customized protocol from these scientists that say this is how we improve it and the outcomes you can expect. Have them come back for those treatments. Institute that. You can sell them some products that are gonna help with it. That's gonna be customized individually for them. And then you can do a follow-up strip. They're probably gonna be really happy with the outcome, but if there's someone like me who likes to see it on paper, then you can do a follow-up and show that change. So thank you. I think I'm out of time.